Welcome to Lesson 9 in mySci's Unit 8, Putting on a Show with Light and Sound. In this lesson, students will answer the question, how does musical instrument design affect the sound? Students will create their instrument and complete a final presentation to explain how their instrument creates sound using vibration, and then they're going to describe ways that they might use their instruments to send their music to other people who are not in the classroom, by identifying different devices that they can use to send their sound over. In the Engage portion of this lesson, you're going to ask students, how can instrument design be changed to apply everything we learned about sound and communication? Students will take everything that they've learned about sound and devices to create an instrument out of recycled material. Have students get out the engineering design cycle in their student journal. Explain to students that we've already gone through steps 1 and 2 of the engineering design cycle. We want to be able to create instruments out of recycled materials, and we need these instruments to communicate with people over a distance. We've researched about sound, including pitch, volume, and rhythm, and we've done research on devices. We've also brainstormed and sketched the different instruments that we can create. Now it's time to choose the best idea from your drawings, create a prototype, and test out your instrument. You'll next show a video that has instruments that other students have made. Students can use this video to generate ideas for their own instrument. During the video, ask students, how are they using their instruments to change the volume? How are they using their instruments to change the pitch? How can they communicate emotions with their instruments? Have students reflect on their instrument drawings and discuss their ideas with a partner. Go over the musical instrument page in the student journal so students are clear about your expectations when they are creating their musical instruments. In the Explore portion of this lesson, groups will work together to discuss their designs. You'll take a good look at Step 4 in the engineering design cycle, construct a prototype. Explain to students that a prototype is the first model of something. Using materials from the mySci kit or materials around your classroom gives students the opportunity to start to build their instrument. Once students are far enough along, encourage them to move on to Step 5 of the engineering design cycle, where they'll test and evaluate their instrument. Have students make sure that their instrument matches their rubric and that it communicates sound the way they want it to. Challenge them to improve their instrument if they're already satisfied with how their instrument turned out. In the Explain portion of this lesson, you'll ask the question, how does your musical instrument make sound? How are you using pitch, rhythm, volume to communicate and create meaning? Have each group of students present their instrument to the class, demonstrating what type of sound variations it has and explaining how sound is made by using vibrations of the different materials they used in their design. Use the musical instrument rubric to assess student work. Explain to students that their presentations were Step 6 of the engineering design cycle, communicate. In the Elaborate portion of this lesson, you'll ask the students, how can we combine all of our instruments to produce something that can play together and make music that has meaning? How can we all play a tune or communicate a feeling using our instruments, feelings like peace, happiness, or excitement? Allow students time to create sounds together, and then ask the students to share these tunes with the class and explain how they will use these sounds or songs in their shadow puppet show. Ask students, how could we use a device to send these sounds or songs to other people who are not in the room? Students may bring up the idea of using a telephone or the loudspeaker in the school or using a microphone to make the sound louder. They might also suggest recording the music on a cell phone or a camera. In the Evaluate portion of this lesson, you'll ask the class, did some arrangements sound better to you than others? Is your instrument able to make sound necessary for you to use in your shadow puppet show? Have students write any ideas they have about designing musical instruments or what they would do to redesign their instrument on the Student Instrument Redesign page. Explain to students that this is Step 7 of the engineering design cycle, which is redesign. Take time to visit the different student groups to go over the musical instrument rubrics with them. Then ask the class, how can what we figured out so far help us understand how we were able to hear the puppet show? How will this help us in designing our own puppet show? By the end of this lesson, students should be able to answer the question, how does musical instrument design affect the sound? Students have designed and built their own musical instruments from recycled material throughout this lesson that they will use when they create their shadow puppet show.